Welcome to the weekend program of Global Morning. Here we are excited because it's a weekend and it's a Saturday. I love it when it's Saturday because it's time to relax as much as you can, and we will do our best to see how we can also catch up on that relaxation. But don't forget that today is another episode where we'll bring you loads of exciting programming on this particular program, the Global Morning. And want to tell you that we have a line of activities here. When I say activities, I have a line of newspaper review segments. We have the tasting texture. We'll bring you that delicious meal always. We'll also bring you some aerobics, and we'll bring you Did You Know segments, and we'll bring you Today in History. And don't forget, always the exciting part is discussion segments, where we have two amazing guests jump in today to talk on some very important issues you wouldn't want to miss on those conversations. I am Anita Patrick, always here to grace your screen and spice up your weekend. Don't go anywhere, stay glued to your screen because loads of lineup is waiting for you. Stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Nigeria at 65, a nation rich in culture, heritage, and resilience. From the banks of the River Niger to the hills of Jos, from the bustling streets of Lagos to the peaceful plains of Sokoto, Nigeria stands tall, united by hope, straightened by diversity. 65 years, the green and white flag rises high, a symbol of freedom, a promise of self-determination, a call to greatness.
Through trials and triumphs, challenges and changes, Nigeria remains unbroken. Her people, bold, brilliant, and brave, continue to rise, innovating, creating, and shaping the future. The journey has been perfect, but it has been powerful.
As we mark 65 years of independence, we remember the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future with hope. Together, we are stronger and united. Happy Independence, Nigeria! This message is brought to you by Global Television.
Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Hello and welcome. It's Global Morning. Like I told you earlier, we have loads of conversations lined up for you, and we're going to start basically the discussion segment. And today is actually going to be an engaging one because we're going to look at women's reserved seats, which is a serious conversation that has been ongoing following the Constitution Review Amendment, and how well women are being going to consider, they're going to be considered when it comes to governance. But let's give you a background to all of this and we'll flow. This segment is going to give you a window into the stories shaping Nigeria's democratic journey. We'll focus on the critical issue at the heart of Nigeria's constitutional review and the push for reserved seats for women in governance. Advocates argue that affirmative action is necessary to break long-standing barriers and ensure women's voices are meaningfully represented in political decision-making. Critics, however, question whether quotas undermine merit in democratic choices. Nigeria ranks among the lowest in Africa when it comes to women's representation in politics. In the current National Assembly, women occupy less than 6% of the seats. Civil society groups and gender advocates have renewed calls for constitutional amendments to create reserved seats for women across federal and state legislatures. Well, supporters, however, say affirmative action will bridge the gender gap, foster inclusivity, and better reflect the diversity of Nigeria's population. Well, opponents counter that such measures may be tokenistic or clash with democratic principles. As the Constitutional Review continues, the debate over women's reserved seats remains a test of Nigeria's commitment to equity and inclusive governance. But today, to unpack all of this issue, I have joining me the founder of WADI. WADI is the Women Arise Development and Humanitarian Initiative, and she's also the UN CDEC committee member representing Nigeria. Well, let's tell you what CDEC is about. It's the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, and she's right here in the studio in person of Esther Egwoyime Michelia. I hope I got that name correctly.
You tried.
It's good to have you, an amazing expert. You know, you're representing Nigeria at the UN, United Nations Human Rights Treaty, and this is a committee that's been set up to look at all of this around women, gender equality, inclusivity. Well, I want to take you on as a gender expert on this whole issue. But let's start basically with the UN. The committee that was set up on the elimination and discrimination of against women. Let's start with what that is about, how well you've been doing to see that women are really included in governance, in leadership position, because you are the points where stands for the world to speak for women in general. Let's start with that.
Thank you very much and good morning. Thank you for having me here. It's a real pleasure to be with you.
Okay.
Well, from the United Nations perspective and the committee in particular, the convention was ratified 45 years ago. It was adopted 46 years ago, but there's a year before it comes into effect, and it's one of the most signed up conventions in the world. There are 189 members that have ratified the convention, which means that from 46 years ago, the world realized that women's participation in all spheres of life was critical to growth and critical to development. That is why this convention was adopted. And the committee is comprised of 23 of us who are elected by the 189 members, so we compete to get there. And once we are there, we serve the world, and we monitor progress, we evaluate, we assess, and we issue guidelines that will help countries to make progress towards the goal that they have set for themselves, that is to create equality and to eliminate all forms of discrimination. So one of the lessons that came out of COVID-19 for the UN and for us in particular was the fact that women's leadership is critical to the growth, development and survival of a nation. We found that countries that had women in top leadership, in governance, at the helm of affairs, they survived, they fared better, they lost fewer lives, their economies were more resilient, and so they bounced back also was better. And that's why you find that the UN Secretary General and all countries have redoubled their efforts since COVID to meet the target of women's leadership. And we on the committee last year, we launched a new framework which we call General Recommendations, General Recommendation 40, which now sets parity as the new target for the world. That countries should strive to achieve that parity for the sake of the economies, for the sake of the health of the nation, for the sake of the agriculture, for the sake of human capital development and growth, and for the resilience of the country. So no country really has been able to achieve equitable development without having women in leadership. And that is what the thrust is all about. And for us, Nigeria, it's not acceptable that Nigeria continues to remain at that level. In the past 3 or 4 reports to the committee, Nigeria has been requested to review its laws because all of these things are grounded on law. So what we're asking for is a legal basis for women to engage that will then guide all stakeholders in how they pursue the electoral process, and this is a constitutional right. It's a citizenship right, and it's a right that ensures that people recognize the value
that women bring
to the table for the growth, survival, resilience of the nation, for the health of the family. I mean, there are many reasons. I will not bore you with statistics, but I know that since that time, many other countries like Oman, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Tunisia, all of these other countries, and of course Africa, a lot of the African countries have been able to amend their laws to ensure that the political actors realize the need to have women in leadership competing. We're not asking for gratis. Reserved seats are not a gratis. They're things that are going to be competed for, and Nigeria is ripe for that because Nigeria has a huge pool of talented, gifted women who are successful in many areas of life. So what this law is saying is that the political parties should look for those women and look for the best among them to compete, so that you have, it's a merit. It's not just any woman that will get there. It is different from the seats that we had during the First Republic. In the First Republic of Nigeria, women were nominated. The nomination is different from a reserved seat. So now we're not asking for women to be nominated to the national or the state assembly. We're asking that they be elected, but that there will be a special provision that is safeguarded, it is ring-fenced, so that it's set aside for women alone, so that all of the barriers that would normally hinder them in the regular competition, lack of resources, lack of choice by the party, attending family meetings, being able to carry family responsibilities along, all of those, would be addressed from a different perspective, so that women who have the capacity are the ones who get into the ring and can then compete for those seats.
Well, I see the fact this is to give you the room to allow our viewers understand the depth of this committee and what you're doing so far, which I'm actually excited about, because I see you talk about the legal framework to guide, and it's a good timing for Nigeria because the Constitution Review Amendments is ongoing. We had an opportunity where the committee on the Constitution Review Amendments sat and looked at how they can bring in the gender for the reserve seat. It's not just about the reserve seat. I see from your rundown, apart from the UN, when it comes to WADI as well, where you are the founder, you have your full guide to where you want to end discrimination against women, end monopoly of governance, guarantee constitutional and citizenship rights, promote social economic benefit for all, harness human capital assets of women and girls, join progressive nations, and accelerate Nigeria to a digital world, safeguard the future on inclusive, sustainable, and powerful developments. Well, for me, this is actually a good one, because let's look at the fact that Nigeria, which we know, and which you've mentioned from reports you got at the UN level of the Committee on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, Nigeria has one of the lowest female representation rates in Africa generally, in the world. So it is not a good time. And I like the fact that you said it is time for Nigeria to move past that phase because women are actually doing well across different sectors. But let's look at this. Why do you think progress has been so far slow despite the years of advocacy? Because it didn't start today. It didn't start today. The advocacy has been ongoing, but the pace for women at that level is still very slow.
Well, I'm happy you talked about it, that this is not the first time. I happen to know that the first time that we tried to do this in Nigeria was during the 7th assembly, and that was many years ago. And a feeble attempt was made during the 8th assembly, but you know that during the 9th assembly, there was a huge effort which also didn't yield fruit. And a lot of it is misconceptions about what women's representation bring to the table. I started out by telling you that women are human capital assets of nation. And all of the issue around Beijing, around Maputo Protocol, because there's actually an African protocol that is the equivalent of the CEDAW, which is the Maputo Protocol, and the AU Agenda 2063 has set a target that countries should strive to achieve parity, women's leadership, because of the value they bring. Because when women are at the table, there are many issues around community services, around women's reproductive health, about reproductive services, around capital and credit. It will surprise you to know that even in Nigeria, women access less than 12% of financial credit, despite the fact that they're like 65% of the labor and the backbone of the agricultural sector. They are over 60% of women in our micro and small medium enterprise sector. So the engine of the country is run by women, but the laws and the rules that guide, they do not take into consideration their peculiar needs, their peculiar circumstances, and the kind of concessions that are needed for them to be able to get into the game and to play it well. But we see that where the rules are favorable, women compete equally. They go to school, they do very well because the guidelines are very clear. So all we're asking is that the guidelines for electoral offices should be such that provision are made for women, so that through these reserved seats we can actually redress historical gaps. We can in one leap try to close the gaps, and at the same time we're able to harness the resources of the best of our women, and then we're able to contribute to economic growth. The world is really rapidly digitizing, and so if we don't bring women on board, all of the digital services that are required to meet the services that they provide in an economy is likely going to fall off the table, and we do not want Nigeria to lose out on that. Secondly, you find that Nigeria is aspiring to be on the UN Security Council seat. And one of the indices is how your governance structure is. And that is why at this time it is so crucial for Nigeria to show that as a global leader who wants to be on the UN Security Council, they value the assets and resources of all citizens. Because when they sit on that council, they're going to be speaking for the world. And they need to bring that perspective and to have the lessons and the models from the domestic lessons that demonstrate and reflect what they are sharing the world. You teach what you do, and so the rest of the world will be looking at those parameters. How are you using your own human resources? What are your views on women, youth, people living with disabilities? And so we're just asking Nigeria to really promote the inclusion that this government talks about, and it's one of the principles, one of the priorities of this current administration, which is highly commendable. This is one of the few times that we're getting inclusion as a priority of a government. And if it is, this is one of the indicators that you actually strive to find measures, to integrate these women, include them in the legal legislative processes, and because already, if you look at the executive, there have been over the years, Nigeria has actually had over the years all kinds of temporary special measures that has brought us to the point where we have women now as cabinet ministers, we have women now as permanent secretaries. I knew when a special circular was issued to create room for more women permanent secretaries, and what that has done is it has produced female heads of service who have contributed richly to this country. And so what we're saying is that you should find a way to allow women who are gifted, talented, to add value to the society, so that the country can sit among leading countries in the world and say both our men, our women, our youth, they all add value and contribute to the economy of our country.
You know, I look at this, the lineup of women for the Committee on the Nation, and I'm so proud to see you there. It shows we have, if Nigeria can get this point and be elected into this particular committee, it shows that at the level of the government we can do better. And if the UN can recognize us, and you got, because all of this shows your compassion, your passion for drive for inclusion. And last time we talked about the issue of the reserved seats, but we know how the reserved seats differ from simply encouraging women to contest in more elections, because it's not about just getting the reserved seats. We have to have women being involved, which is part of your advocacy, right? Speaking about it, and good enough, like I said, the constitution review is ongoing, affirmative action, and it wasn't the first time, but this time around we're gaining more audience from all the authorities. We have the he for she who's driving. I like the fact that the legislative arm of government at this point in time, for example, the Speaker of the House and the Deputy Speaker are he for she's, and they are actually pushing this drive. Even the Senate is not differ from all of this conversation. But let's look at the ongoing constitution review presents an opportunity. What specific proposals are on the table for women's reserved seats? Are we just looking at more seats for women in the parliament, or we're looking at across also, and I know the State Assembly is also involved as well, cut across the State Assembly, you're looking at for more seats for women? Is it just at that point we're coming, because you've talked more about beyond the reserved seats? Well, because the push right now is reserved seats bill.
Yes, the reason we're pushing for reserved seats is because we found that the electoral processes has not allowed the political parties to really demonstrate and fulfill their own constitutions, because if you look at the political parties, all of them have in their constitution that they would have affirmative action and reserved seats for women, but within the internal governance of the political parties, it has been difficult for them to deliver on their own constitution. However, we know that the constitution is what guides the whole country, and on the constitutional the constitution just guarantees the citizens' rights, and so Nigeria practices what we know as proportional representation. And so what we're saying is proportionally, women needs to have a portion of those that are elected. And so while the reserved seats are being proposed to have one woman each at the senatorial level from all of the 36 states, one woman, that is in addition to what we already have as 3 senators per senatorial district. We would also have one woman each also at the House of Assembly. So at the House of Assembly we're having the Houses of Assembly, they have more than 3 seats per district, per constituency, and so all in all we're expecting 74 women to emerge from the House of Assembly, while we have at the and the FCT, and then at the Senate level 36 plus the FCT, so 75 here, 37 here, and that would be like a minimum that will at least allow women to compete, and you get the best of women, so that the modeling can then begin. Because we were asking, why are women not there? It's like, if you flash back, and I can remember when I was young, and when I was going into my first job, in the National Commission for Women, a lot of the leaders that we had then, female leaders, were people who actually went against the tide. There were no women in school. Women could not go to school. And so they studied from outside of the classroom premises, sitting on the window. Some were accidental. But their performance has encouraged families, has encouraged women, inspired young people to say, if she could do it, I can do it. And so that is actually what this bill is meant to do. And that is what it has done around the world, is that where countries have the law and it is legal, then you find women who have successfully gone into politics, being model that inspire other people, other young women. They mentor them and assure them that it's a safe space to be in. It is a way to contribute to national growth and development, and it doesn't take away from anything that makes you female. Like as a woman, you have the capacity, you have the intellect. We have a lot of women lawyers. If you go into FIDA, you will see women who are legally grounded. You have women in every walk of life. You have industrialists. You have women in energy, oil and gas, in pharmacy, in technology, in education, in the academia, in agriculture, in mining. There's no sector in this. There's no sector that you don't have women. So it's to demonstrate to them that from wherever they stand, they can contribute to having improving our legislative processes, in having oversight, in monitoring, in just ensure that the systems work.
Okay, I know with your compassion and passion about the women inclusion, you can keep talking, but let's look at the critics. Some critics argue that affirmative action undermines meritocracy. How do you respond to that?
But I actually I said that now, that people don't understand. It's not about giving women what they don't deserve. It's about addressing a system that does not allow the skills and competencies of women to come to the fore. And so with we call it in the committee, by the language of the convention, temporary special measures. They are measures that countries take to address historical gaps, to address monopolies. So if there's a monopoly, you need to have a different approach to break that monopoly, and that's what Nigeria is trying to do, because our electoral system is actually a monopoly. So if we have this bill, it breaks it, and then a new system will emerge where women have these resources, they can compete, and then it convinces the men that they can actually field women successfully, because some parties feel that women are not sellable on a party ticket. But I tell you, that's not true. That's not true. It's that they don't get the opportunity to showcase their political skills, their leadership skills. And you can see from countries around the world, many African countries have already produced female presidents. Why not Nigeria? And where is the pathway? The pathway is through the electoral process.
True. Okay, because I was about asking that, because if Nigeria is looking towards the side of getting it right, what lessons can Nigeria draw from other African countries like Rwanda, Senegal, South Africa, where quotas have boosted female representation? What lessons should Nigeria learn to move it as a way forward?
Well, the lessons are what we're going through now, that every country started either with an executive order, a quota, a temporary special measure, reserved seats, and gradually, incrementally, because what we're asking for now is just a fraction of the population that is in the National Assembly. But it's a leap forward that will make a meaningful difference, because of course you know that decision making is by election, is by votes, and to make the voice of the women count, that's why you need at least a minimum, what we call it, a critical threshold. So if you have a minimum critical threshold is what we're looking at, and then the country can start on the journey towards parity and take it at its own pace, looking for the best women in the right fields with the right skills, bringing their best to the development of the country and to enrich the operations and the performance of the political system.
Awesome. Well, let's look at it as a part of future, because we're clamoring for all of this. If this amendment passes, what impact do you foresee on governance, policy making, and the quality of democracy in Nigeria? Because that is the focus we want it to be passed as part of it. So if it passes, where do you see all of that speaking for us?
Well, I can only go back again and draw on the lessons of COVID, that you see women right from the domestic level, they have a certain outlook to financial management, to credit facilities, to economic investment that they will bring to the table. The investment outlook of women, and you would see it at the family level, is different. The spending priorities are different. Women's risk aversion makes them really a real asset. They know how to manage risks. They've demonstrated it in seeing families through very critical situations, and they've done it, a lot of them, at the community level. All we're saying is bring this into governance so that we can navigate well. And I can give you the example of New Zealand was a very good one, but Iceland as a country, you know, during the global financial crisis of 2008-2009, Iceland was the only country that actually, all the developing countries, that survived. And the reason they survived was because they had a number of countries, a number of companies then, financial institutions that had women in the board. All the companies that had women on board survived. And the lesson was that Iceland as a country then issued a legislation guiding financial institutions. No financial institution can have more than 50% of one gender on the board. And that has kept Iceland in the leadership in terms of its finances. It didn't suffer setback. And you would also see that, you know, in many other spheres of life. Look at our financial sector, because people don't know that there is a regulation that says banks and financial institutions must have at least 30%. It's an internal circular, financial circular by the central bank to fulfill affirmative action and temporary special measures. But once the women were given the chance, and they've proven, it's been easy for the banks to look for, scout for women who have done us creditably well as a country. We've had past ministers past female ministers who have done us tremendously proud. So I think Nigeria we have the pool of resources. All we're saying is have a legal framework that ensures that we draw from that pool and we're able to deploy it into our governance system, and as a nation we would all reap the benefits in every sector of the economy.
Well, that's actually the right word to wrap it up, because I see that we, like you said, we're working towards it. We're looking at how to get it better in a political landscape, looking at legislative points of view, looking at the political parties also embracing the fact that women can be a good market points for their party, and women can bring value if given the opportunity, looking at how well they've done in the family fronts and how they've brought in even the marketplace, in the financial system, the financial sector, in the agricultural sector, trade and export, just name it, technology, health. Exactly. We have good doctors doing very well globally. We have award-winning in almost every field. We have award-winning women. So why not in the area of governance? We hope that with these amendments coming to play with the Constitution, that this narrative will change. And good enough, you are this committee on the elimination of this discrimination against women. So I see your drive, I see the way you're pushing. Even though at this level you are for the world, but you're still Nigerian. Absolutely. You're still Nigerian, and we like the fact that you're still clamoring and pushing for. And I can tell you, at the 69th CSW in New York, Nigeria actually hosted other African countries, and it was agreed that Nigeria would host the launch of the GR40 that I talked to you about. All the other regions have launched, and the African countries want Nigeria to be the one to host it, because they're looking at Nigeria, the giant of Africa. That how can you have less than 10%, just 4 point something percent? It's really. And there's all eyes are on Nigeria. That if Nigeria gets it right, then Africa can hold its head right. And I'm looking forward to working with you and others, when we do the launch in Nigeria, for us to actually show that GR40, which is parity, Nigeria is committing to taking that first step, which it will be doing with this reserved bill. Okay, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the programming, and it's an amazing conversation with you, and we look forward to Nigeria hosting the GR40 launch. Africa Africa launch. Yes.
Africa launch.
We look forward to it, and that will spark the space for us and set the sky rolling for us, and to be the limits for us when it comes to women representation. Well, thank you so much for the insights on this particular conversation, because it's not something that is passionate for every woman who is a Nigerian, because we want to see Nigeria do better and not be at the lowest point when it comes to women representation. And then although the debate over reserved seats for women is more than a political question, it's about the future of representation and equality in Nigeria. We look forward to all of that coming to play. Well, it's been an amazing discussion here with my guest, and you hear her speaking loud and clear, and the fact that she looks forward to Nigeria doing better from where we are now. Thank God we're doing a lot, shaking the ground and ensuring that the representation speaks volume. It's good enough that she's also at the UN, the world level, at the Committee on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. So it gives an edge to Nigeria, and we look forward to all of that coming to play. Well, it's the Global Morning Weekend, and we still have other discussion segments and segments of the programming. Stay with us, don't go anywhere.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Nigeria at 65, a nation rich in culture, heritage, and resilience. From the banks of the River Niger to the hills of Jos, from the bustling streets of Lagos to the peaceful plains of Sokoto, Nigeria stands tall, united by hope, straightened by diversity. 65 years, the green and white flag rises high, a symbol of freedom, a promise of self-determination, a call to greatness.
Through trials and triumphs, challenges and changes, Nigeria remains unbroken. Her people, bold, brilliant, and brave, continue to rise, innovating, creating, and shaping the future. The journey has been perfect, but it has been powerful.
As we mark 65 years of independence, we remember the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future with hope. Together, we are stronger and united. Happy Independence, Nigeria! This message is brought to you by Global Television.
Welcome back. We're still here and it's Global Morning. It was an amazing discussion there with my guests. But right now we're moving to this Super Review segment and I have my co-host Mukhtar Kasim Jamil. He's looking different today. I told him. He's looking so dapper.
Good morning, Anita. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good to have you.
It's a beautiful morning. It's great to be here. And you're looking amazing as always yourself.
You're not looking different. I feel like you're going to get a wife today.
Well, you look and tell it's Saturday, and you know Saturday sometimes
it's a wedding.
I'm getting married today.
Don't worry, we'll tell you when he's getting married. But let's quickly jump on this Super Review segment, and we have notes of paper lined up for the day. Let's tell you that we have the likes of The Nation, The Guardian, Nigeria at 65, tears of children leaders can't ignore, and that story is on page 26 and 27 of the Guardian newspaper.
Of course, you know, Nigeria is turning 65 and we have a myriad of challenges, and out of school children is among the top of that list. And this headline is saying that the government needs to turn their attention in making the welfare of children much better than what we have in Nigeria, and I hope it improves, obviously.
Okay, and then away from that, we have the picture of the 44th Olubadan there, where he was decorated, which is an exciting one because we have the president as well in person, where he stands to also see what went down, and the governor of Governor Seyi Makinde also standing tall to do all of that.
Yes, it was an amazing event yesterday, and we know that the traditional institution in Nigeria, they have a very integral role that they play in the nation. So it's a good one to see that the Olo of Ibadan has been sworn in and he has assumed office.
Congratulations
to him.
And may you live long. So let's move away from that and tell you all the stories making around. Below that, so we have, it says, alleged terrorism. You have case to answer, court tells Nnamdi Kanu. That story is on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper.
And away from that, we see this one that says UNGA-80 Shatima, United Nations chief, meet over Nigeria's Security Council bid, UNDP partnership.
Well, that's because the vice president has been out of the country for the hunger 80th anniversary, and he's also clamoring for a seat for Nigeria at the UN points, and then he's also putting out other issues on the front burner, which he says is very important for Nigeria's Security Council bid to also be a major conversation for them.
Of course, Nigeria has been a big player in the international system, especially in Africa. We've contributed to many peacekeeping missions across different countries, and this contribution, according to the Vice President, should earn us a place in the UN Security Council, and it's a good one for Nigeria, and I hope we clinch that seat because it's going to be a very big one for Nigeria. It's a big deal. Okay,
let's jump right now to a bit of business. There we have Dangote Refinery refutes alleged sack of workers over unionism, and the writer that says coalition backs company rejects DAPA's 1.5 trillion subsidy push. That story is on page 3.
Yes, this story is awash in all major dailies.
Yes.
And we've been seeing it making the rounds, and they've been going back and forth. Dangote has said, I employ these people and I reserve the right to terminate engagement, because I said don't join this particular place, and you join. So I think if it's not against the terms of their contract, then it's a good one, but the union are saying they will not take it lightly with him.
Okay, well, we'll look at it and see how it does an internal thing and see how we can work around it. Okay, let's see this story just below the plates there. It says new NDLEA sniffer dog facility will boost fight against illicit drugs in Nigeria, says Mawa. That story is on page 2, so you can pick up a copy of the paper and find out what that is about. But he's looking at how they can look at illicit drugs, because the drug abuse is becoming something else.
It's a menace, and we see young people especially caught up in this menace, so we hope to see it coming to an end. Maybe these sniffer dogs would help
a lot and go a long way. Well, above the marks head there you have the story on World Tourism Day, with the writer that says why Nigeria's rich tourism attractions fail to drive national growth. Well, that's one sector we have, and we have a lot to deliver, but is it really giving us the benefits?
Honestly, it's not. It's an economy that is potentially one that can contribute to our GDP, but it has been underperforming, and reforms have been made, but we hope those reforms will turn to results and give us the much needed revenue from there.
Okay, that's the much we can take from the Guardian. So let's quickly move fast and tell you other stories making around with Saturday Vanguard. Saturday Vanguard is our next paper right now, and there we have what leads the major headline there. It says trade fair demolition. I lost everything before my foreign partners, Magnus Ike. The writer that says we chose peace, not violence, Chief Eric. And we have traders alleged selective exercise, say complex is federal land. And also we have Lagos Defense Action. All of that conversation we have on page 12 and page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper there.
Yes, and away from that, we see above the masthead, roles of kings, not only to wear beads or acquire women. Ladoda says as he is crowned 44th Olu-Ibadan. This is a new dawn in Ibadan land. Tinubu to Nigerians, your suffering has yielded progress and growth.
Okay, well, he has said it's not about acquiring more, wearing beads and having lots of wives and women around him.
Actually, I agree with him. As a traditional ruler, you have an integral role because you're a leader of your people. So you are a person who should be a social crusader that brings change to your people, not just the fanfare and the pompous life that comes with being
I tell you, let his reign be good and will not the best. We pray he succeeds at bringing the change he wants to bring in.
Yes.
Well, let's away from that and tell you the story. We have Fubara dissolves pensions board constituted by Ibas. That story is on page 4. We'll find out on that story because Rivers,
has been in
it's gone off democratic system governance. So he's now the governor. He knows his vision. He's now in charge, so he knows what he's looking for. So, well, that's it. But let's take the major headline, another one that speaks boldly. Nigeria's economy at 65. How we missed the boats. That story is on page 9, and it's so bold there. You can pick up the copy of the paper and find out how we missed the boats when it comes to Nigeria's economy.
I'm actually intrigued to see how we did, because we know we actually missed the boat, and we hope we are able to find our way back to the promised land.
Okay, hopefully we find our way to the promised land. Well, we have a bit of entertainment. Burna Boy raises dust over Fela, and that's on page 18. We also have Nigerians that lost confidence in the electoral process. Itodo Yaga Africa boss, speaking of them on page 11. Well, pick up a copy of the paper and get details on that. And the Nnamdi Kanu story has been watched in all papers by my colleagues. Yes. You have case to answer, court tells Nnamdi Kanu. Well, that's it on the Vanguard newspaper. Let's quickly tell you other stories making the round in other papers. We'll quickly move to our next paper, which is the Punch newspaper. Sorry.
And of course, the Punch is leading with this mass headline that says, sacked workers, Pengasyn threatens to picket Dangote refinery, with a rider that says, group summons emergency meeting, says 800 workers fired. And the second rider says, exercise not arbitrary, saboteurs targeted. And that is Dangote replying to them.
Well, there's been a lot of back and forth with the Pengasyn and Dangote refinery. Well, pick up a copy of that paper of the Punch. It's on page 4. And find out what he's saying about. But let's move away from that. We have other stories, which is below that why my brother and his wife, 3 children were poisoned to death. That's siblings speaking there. And we also have, which is sad, but we can find out. Then we also have where it says 13 die in Zamfara mining pits collapse. That's actually a sad one there. 13 people die in Zamfara mining pits collapse.
You know, the issue is we've seen that mining sector in Zamfara. There's a time that the governor placed a ban on it, and activity just resumed, and we're still having this sad one. So I think more inspections need to be carried out before people are allowed to go on site, to make sure quality assurance and safety is guaranteed while on site.
Okay, well, we hope that a lot of safety measures are put in place to give the miners
safety and
also security when they do their job. Does not have all that recurring again. And then we have the story which says police removed me from abusive marriage. Victoria Inyama speaking there on page 16 of the Punch. We can pick up a copy of the Punch, Saturday Punch, and find out all of the stories that make the round as well.
Certainly.
Okay, and then let's move away and that's The Nation. The Nation newspaper has the story which is also speaking about reforms, economic reforms and all that. But let's take this. It says economic reforms bearing fruit, Tinubu speaking, and then we have riders, massive crowd at Ladoja. As Ladoja is crowned 44th Olubadan. We also have Monarch. I expect creation of Ibadan State before 2027. And the other one that says our expectations from Ladoja by residents and groups. All that story is on page 4. We also have where it says, today I'm honored and proud to give you cheering news that the economy has turned the corner. There is a bright light at the end of the tunnel.
And as the president speaking.
As the president speaking there, he said there's a bright light. Nigerians are waiting to see the bright light at the end of the tunnel. Well, all of that on the Nation is where I beg your pardon. You can find out all of those making the rounds.
And yes, away from that, above the masthead, you'll see a business story that says Dangote refinery, Pengasyn clash over fate of 800 workers. And the writer said CT says action necessary to safeguard facility. Union warn of action.
Well, that story is making rounds in all the papers. And let's also look at, we had earlier with the last paper, I said we talked about the miners. Here we have 100 feared dead in Zamfara mine collapse. We had 13 earlier, we have 100. That's a large number. That's on page 2. Let's hope that safety measures, like we said earlier, will be looked into to ensure that these people are safe and in case of taking out their own jobs.
Certainly, and it doesn't happen again.
It doesn't happen again. Okay. That's the much we can take on the nation. Let's quickly move to the weekend
Next paper is the Weekend Trust, and it leads with this that says bandits gun down worshippers in Zamfara Mosque. Insecurity.
What's happening with Zamfara? The miners, now we have the insecurity bandits and all that.
Well, funny enough, these are not new issues in Zamfara. These are issues that the state has been battling with. So that's why we've been calling on the government to intervene and turn the tide, because it's not a good one. Every single time we see Zamfara in the news, it's mostly not good news.
Okay, Zamfara, we hope that the much needed attention will be given to you to ensure that the people are safe and people can be relaxed that they are in their home and go about their businesses when it comes to the insecurity matters and all the law of measures put in place. Well, let's move away from that and see Sahad built from my savings as messenger. That's on page 5. You can pick up a copy and talk about
the
that.
Details.
Yeah. We always have infographics and also demonstrations of on the weekend trust. And here we have how foods harm you. So they're giving you a guide to know what kind of food you consume,
what to eat and what not to eat.
And what not to eat. Don't forget, we're also going to bring up the taste and texture. Whereas Nita is always looking forward to, because we end up going to have a meal and have our stuff. So we are also looking at all of that. But let's quickly move away from that, pick up a copy and find out all of that. We also have down there
below the mask. Yes, we see delegates walk out as Netanyahu. Delegates walk out on Netanyahu at UNGA, and details of that is on page 22 of the Saturday Weekend Trust.
Okay, we also have 2027 Jonathan's Hearts in the Ring, and that's on page 7. Conversation around Jonathan coming to run for presidency.
Yes, we've been seeing people say come back, or don't come back, and we saw with Malawi that the ex-president has been voted back in office, so we don't know if that will happen in Nigeria.
Okay.
So it's up to the electorate to find out and decide what they want for the country ahead of the 2027 elections.
Okay, well, let's quickly move to the Nigerian Tribune, because that's the much you can take on the Weekend Trust. Let's see what the Tribune is saying. Saturday Tribune has its own headline above the masthead there. It says, new INEC chairman must not be partisan. That's the opposition party, ADC, speaking tough there.
When I saw that headline, the first question I asked was, is an INEC chairman partisan? Of course.
It's an independent.
It's independent, so there's no partisanship, or there should be no partisanship.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, they've said their own, and the law has a way of placing out the chairman and what else it should be. Well, let's move away and see the same story with Dangote Refinery reads boldly on the Tribune. It says Dangote Refinery Pegasus clash over sack of workers, and riders there speaking boldly. Union alleges plan to replace Nigerians with Indians. Company denies mass sack reports. Says over 3,000 Nigerians still work there. Well, okay, still the same story making the round on the coronation of the Olubadan.
Yes, we see this one that the president says hardship will soon be a thing of the past, and that is on page 4, and we hope the president's statement becomes a reality, and the hardship we face as Nigerians becomes a thing of the past.
And the Olubadan speaking of there, he said, I will serve Ibadan with all my might, and we pray that
he does his best.
Will rest on him to do what he deserves, because he really wants to serve the nation and give Nigeria the best.
And he said he wants the creation of a state. And we said before, it's not an issue, but allocation of resources and managing of the ones we have now is what we want to see.
Okay, let's quickly round up with the next paper, Saturday Independence. That's the paper we have, Saturday Independence. It has its own different headline leading it. The Saturday Independence says, ASU threats, government silence may plunge varsities into indefinite strike again. That's the Saturday Independence newspaper there. It has its own headline. That's why I wanted us to look at it. ASU has not been in the front line in a long time, but now they're threatening to say government silence.
Government silence.
I don't think so bad for the students, because tertiary institution is actually, I had an encounter when I was in school as well, where I was delayed as well. Every student had their case, and for me it's always heartbreaking when you see students who are supposed to have been done with their academics and they're still back there.
A program of 4 years, you see within 6-7 years because of issues like this. And it's not really nice for our education sector. You see other countries, our neighboring countries, people are forced to go to those countries to acquire education when we can actually give much better here. So this crisis is one that should be long overdue resolved, and our education becomes where it should be, which is at the top.
Okay, well, that's it on that way. That story is on that paper on page 8, where you have placards speaking as soon now, stop suffocating university lecturers, all of that conversation. Pick up the copy and find out other stories. Let's take one more story which talks on differently. Why I support state police, Governor Mufang, that's the Plateau State Governor speaking. Yes, Mufang is speaking tough there, and he's saying he supports state policing. And then we also have Senate. I find it very wants Attorney General, security agencies to investigate Natasha's allegation. That story is on page 4. Find out all of that conversation on the Saturday Independent newspaper. Then there's a superstar story there. One on the main side, he said, I'm not yet a superstar. Nigerian Idol Raymond speaking there on page 9.
He's not. He's already on the front pages of our newspaper.
And he says, "Hi, superstar." I don't know how he's else supposed to be a superstar. But that's it. That's how much we can take on this part of this segment. Well, pick up a copy of all of these papers and get informed, get educated, and keep yourself abreast with what happens in Nigeria and across the world. Mukhtar, what's it from your end?
That's it from now. And we'll see you on the flip side.
We'll see you on the flip side, because we have our second discussion segments, which you will not want to miss. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Nigeria at 65, a nation rich in culture, heritage, and resilience. From the banks of the River Niger to the hills of Jos, from the bustling streets of Lagos to the peaceful plains of Sokoto, Nigeria stands tall, united by hope, straightened by diversity. 65 years, the green and white flag rises high, a symbol of freedom, a promise of self-determination, a call to greatness.
Through trials and triumphs, challenges and changes, Nigeria remains unbroken. Her people, bold, brilliant, and brave, continue to rise, innovating, creating, and shaping the future. The journey has been perfect, but it has been powerful.
As we mark 65 years of independence, we remember the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future with hope. Together, we are stronger and united. Happy Independence, Nigeria! This message is brought to you by Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Hello and welcome back to this segment of the Global Morning. I told you we have 2 discussion segments, and this is one conversation you wouldn't want to miss. And here we're going to be looking at grassroots football challenges, Nigeria's road to the World Cup. Don't forget, this is the sports segment of Global Morning, and we want you to join us on this ride because here we'll dig deep into the issues shaping the world of sports. Our focus is on grassroots football in Nigeria, the struggles, the progress, and the bigger picture of our nation's journey to the World Cup. Well, joining us in this conversation is Barrister Oluwatunde Akintade. He is the chairman of Like Minds FC of Abuja, a grassroots club owner based in Gwagwalada, and is also an NLO Division 1 club. He is also the board member FCT Football Association and the board member representing North Central in the NLO body. Don't forget, he's also a legal practitioner. He's going to be dealing into this, both the legal parts and all of that. Please join me as I welcome my guest, Barrister Babatunde Akintade. It's good to have you in the studio.
It's my pleasure to have you here, Anette.
All right, there's a whole lot of conversation, and I want us to just get straight into it. Thank you for joining us. Well, first, what are the problems? Let's go straight, because I don't want us to make my role on the whole thing. What's the main problem grassroots club owners in Nigeria face today? Because grassroots is the bedrock to our football growth or standing tall across the globe.
Well, thank you so much. Good morning, Anette.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you will see it is no more a news that we have problem when it comes to sports development at the grassroots level. In fact, one of the major challenges we're having is inadequate funding.
Okay.
That is one of the major problems that we're having. The basic truth is that the government are not willing. I want to state categorically that grassroots football, the government, people saddle with the responsibility of ensuring that the grassroots sports is properly developed, are gradually failing in their civic responsibility.
Okay.
That's one of the major problems. Everybody will tend to be saying, yes, everybody tend to focus
on the presidency.
When it comes to issues that doesn't have anything to do with the presidency. However, people fail to understand that there are people saddled with this responsibility,
okay,
and they're actually doing it. That is the major problem.
Okay.
Now, for instance, when last do we have local government cup, chairman's cup, popularly known as the chairman's cup? Back in the days, we have what we call Minister's Cup, secondary school game. I believe you would have participated in one or two of them. We used to have the Shell Cup and all of that. But it is highly demeaning that as I speak with you now, we don't have any of those sport activities flowing anymore in the country. I'm from the Gwagwalada Area Council, and of course I have friends around. I have sports activities going around all the area council.
Okay.
Everybody tend to leave everything to FCT board association to manage. We don't have any support. I'm a board member of the FCT FA. There is no support coming from particularly the local government chairman. They feel we don't even have facilities. That's even the problem. Lack of facilities is even a major problem.
Okay.
I personally put the government day field. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate the secondary school board.
Okay.
They have been cooperating tremendously.
Awesome.
I had to write to the secondary school board to please help us with the government day secondary school field, Gwagwalada. That is where we are using now as a local government. All the entire stadium, we are supposed to be having 6 stadiums
across the area council.
And later as I speak with you, there is no one that is functioning.
Okay, you know we used to have in Kuje, that township stadium. It's not a shadow itself right now.
Project.
Yes.
The one in Gwagwalada, in fact, as I speak with you now, it is now a valley. People now go in there, dig sand from there, and of course use it to go and build wherever they have their project going on.
Wow.
So the issue of, in fact, you can't grow sports without having particularly facilities to play with. If this morning I passed through the government day field, you will see categories of children playing there. In fact, I have made up my mind I'm going to do a letter to the minister so as they can track and we trace people who were responsible for the development of these stadiums around the 6 area council. They should be called to book. They should be called to be questioned.
Because I'm looking at all of these things, and you are a club owner at the grassroots points. If you're sounding this way about facilities, I'm wondering how you cope. So I'm looking at the personally how you cope with these challenges in running your own club, the Like Minds Club Mercy. How do your players? And your practice.
Like I have told you, we have just one pitch in Babalada.
So that's not enough.
That is government secondary school. And thank God for the teaching hospital too. We have been highly supportive. They have been allowing us use their facility. Even the facility too is not that good. And I tell you that we are the one putting both the secondary school field and the government field. We have to, out of our way, raise money to ensure that we put the place habitable for players to play. We don't have any support from anybody. So it's a big issue. It's a big issue that I feel the Sports Council should really look into. Like I've said, we're already, particularly the FCTFA, is already putting heads together to see how we'll do a letter under the chairmanship of my able chairman, Abba Mukhtar. We're thinking of doing a letter to the minister. These stadiums can't just be abandoned.
No, they cannot be abandoned.
We should at least see what we can pull out of it.
Well, this is actually one way to make things right if we need to get it right when it comes to grassroots sport. But now you're wearing the cap as the North Central representative in the NLO. How would you rate the performance of teams in your zone this season? Because, of course, it's the season for the games. How coping?
I recall vividly that when I came in as the representative of NLO in the North Central, we were having about, I think about 14 or 15 NLO 1 club and about 9 NLO 2 clubs. But as I speak with you now, it is a fact well settled that the teams and the NLO are really growing. Because the last NLO competition we had in FCT alone, we had over 40 teams playing in the NLO and about 28 teams playing in the NLO too. So that really showcased that the NLO is actually growing. And as I speak with you now, the NLO is not only growing. You can as well watch all of those matches, even up to date. Once you Google it,
it's live.
So
that shows that it's actually also being building in terms of...
Yes, it's building in terms of showcasing the players to the entire world.
Because that's what we need, because we can't have doing well at the grassroots level and they're not being seen, because they need to grow. Because I'm passionate about grassroots, like I mentioned to you earlier before we came up live, and I talked about the fact that I've seen great talents because we have lots of them. Saturday, for instance, just like we have, coming to the office, you could see the crowd of young people on different pitches because where they can find a place to kick the ball. Want to,
want to play including the old ones. Including the old ones. In fact, as I speak with them, you go to the government field or you go to Go Project, you see old men of 50, 60
still want to move their
body because that is the only thing you can't go to the market and buy.
No, you can't.
Exercise. You go to the chemist and pick it up.
So I like the fact that this, because I've had coaches come here speak to me about how they discover talents and how they build, and they still mention issues around funding and facilities not being available for them or not being sufficient enough for them. Because I look at the area councils, like you mentioned, that's a very tough one for you. But your club is based in Babalada. How do you access football development there in that particular terrain and also in the Federal Capital Territory more broadly when it comes to all of this?
Well, coincidentally, I'm a man who is putting on many caps. I'm actually the vice chairman of the Babalada Football Council. Under the chairmanship of my able chairman, Mr. Ibrahim, Coach Ibrahim Baku. Well, when I joined them last 3 years, I discovered that one, they don't even have facilities to play. Secondly, they don't have means of even showcasing this player. And as at that time, we played the Babalada League with about, I think, 10 clubs But as I speak with you, the league is ongoing. We have over 26 clubs playing in the league. The Gwagwalada Football Council have now become an exemplary, it's been an exemplary role among other councils.
Oh, great.
As I said, we want to discuss. Gwagwalada Council, the Sports Football Council is playing a major role, an exemplary role around the area council. When it comes to sport development. In fact, players for the past 3 years now, players that have traveled abroad to play at that level, there are more than 6 of them. And that showcases that Gwagwalada Area Council is actually doing well.
So let's look at, if as Gwagwalada Leverage is doing well, what happens to the area councils? I know you're speaking because you're from this axis. But how have you been able to relate with other area councils? Because we have lots of the talents also at that area councils. I know you mentioned the local government council not even doing their own quota to ensure that those talents are being showcased.
Yeah, you see, you won't blame these councils for not meeting up, just like the way, like I told you, Gwagwalada is trying to strive.
Yes.
You won't blame the other councils, because the truth of the matter is that football is highly cash intensive, except you want to deceive yourself. When you want to go into sports development as a whole, I'm just picking one segment of sport, which is football. It's highly cash intensive. Now, not to talk of picking the entire sporting activity across. You will not discover that you need people who have the mind and the zeal to spend for the growth of the game. You must first love the game, have the zeal to spend your money. At times when you disclose to people what you are putting into football, somebody will see you that you are actually abnormal. Yes, I'm telling you, they will see you as to be abnormal. But once you love the game, you have passion for the game, of course you begin to see how you can put in your little contribution to grow the game, even though you are not getting that support from the appropriate channels that are supposed or saddled with the responsibility to do that. Now, how many of these philanthropists do we have across the 6 area councils? People are there, people might have, in fact, they're passionate about it. There are people who don't even have at all. I know people who don't even have, they will come to the pitch
and just encourage you.
Take, buy pure water. But there are people who have millions in their account, they will just come watch and enjoy the game and just leave the pitch. So that is one of the major problems that I feel we're having.
Okay, well, I know that all of this inclusivity issue where we've been talking about I want to understand your club. Do you encourage the side of the gender parts? Is it just the male or you have the female also whom you're grooming who have the passion for this particular game of football?
Thank you, Annette. I really want to say for female football in Nigeria, we need to embark on serious sensitization. Yes, because in my club, as I speak with you, we have about just three ladies playing for us. Now you will now see my daughter to play football. Yes, she plays football too. But when you now see that in a club like the Light Minds, you have only 3 people playing, you look around other clubs, you see 1, 2, you showcase that the sensitization as to female football is not enough. So I would want to pray the people saddled with the responsibility of female football, which I know we have capable hands there. They need to do more. They need to do more so as people ladies can come out and to their bit and play football.
You know what I'm asking all about, because when we talk about grassroots development and now that is put in place, the women are doing not so well for me right now, because from what you've mentioned, if you look at the global stage, our women are dominating across, but when it comes to grassroots, it's still not speaking. So I'm wondering, how do they climax to that point? Is it at the international they bring them back home to come and play alone? Because I know we used to have women from from the grassroots, different clubs that play.
Even as I speak with you, one of the board member of the FCT, Ajuma, she did organize a very good female league program sometime last year, early this year. And it was actually a blow. because people, you see ladies who are willing to play and they all came out. But then the truth is, we need to sensitize them. Particularly some parents have this mentality that once a lady is playing football, you look masculine in nature and all of that.
I always bring my mom to the steps, always announce her because I love to be on the track. I did very well in school. I was representing my school across, but my mom had to take me out from my school and change me to another school. Just because I have to write my exams after representing the school and come back. And she's always saying, keep announcing me because I want it to look like a female, not a male. And I'm like, look at it now. Sports is an economy. There's money coming in. We should have been probably in one country chilling. But that was bad.
We need to sensitize them. We need to sensitize parents and even encourage them. Whenever we see them, we should encourage them. Like what I do, it's not always ideal for you to mix both the female and the male together.
That's not ideal at all.
It's not ideal. So you need to go out of our way to get a coach that his own duty is only to
that perspective.
To coach the ladies. That's really what we normally do.
Okay, because I was actually going to talk to you about your coaching at the level. How is it with your coach when it comes to training these people on the pitch? How your coach faring at the grassroots point?
We have, as I speak with you, I want to thank the chairman of FCT Football Association, Abba Mukhtar, towards his contribution as regards coaching education. He had really done well in that angle. As I speak with you, there is this ongoing coaching program. I think they rounded up yesterday. The CAFD coaching program. I mean, a lot of coaches from FCT are there. As I speak with you, very soon we'll be having coaches from FCT who will be competing for the national team coach. We already have some of them there.
That's awesome.
We have the like of Coach Bassi, we have the like of Coach Lerica and all of that. I believe more are coming.
Okay, well, that's a good one to look at the grassroots point, because all of that for me, I want to see the talents who have trained themselves over the years, who have done well, and the cheers come from the grassroots point to get to stardom, because the likes of the ones we have at the stardom points who are celebrities today started somewhere. So the growth comes in, and just like you mentioned, you've had clubs come to pick them, and because of the talents they've seen, and they can build capacity with them and get them to do brighter. But that's one conversation that will bring us to the big question on the minds of fans ahead of the Super Eagles fighting for a place at the next World Cup. In your honest opinion, do you think qualification is realistic for us as a nation?
You see, football is something that beats human imagination.
Very true.
Our qualification to the World Cup, it's strenuous and almost impossible. But that doesn't mean that it is not possible.
I like that.
I think we are in Group C, and we are having just about 7 points, tailing the back of South Africa, we're having about 13 points.
Yes.
I mean, all we need to do is to win our remaining matches.
Which is it visible?
All we need is hard work. We don't. I know one thing about we Nigerians. We have this resilient spirit.
You just to do other
So I want to believe that we can still do it.
Okay.
We can still do it. Looking at the caliber of players that we have, and from the NFF too. I mean, the support is massive.
It's massive.
The support is massive. From our able president, football NFL president in person of Guzo. Yes, the support is massive. So with that, I feel we can win our 3 matches, and there's even possibility that even South Africa can drop a point.
It happens. That's a over for us. But that's good.
And worst case scenario, I see us going for a playoff. That is the worst case scenario. But as I speak with you now, I cannot confidently say we will not go to the World Cup. I have the belief that we are going to the World Cup.
So when we get to the World Cup, can we sustain the momentum, go past just appearing and just doing far and getting into?
Because you see, football is highly dicey. at times football is a replicant of this popular adage that says that at times in the bush you go and discover that a dry wood is standing while a tree that is still full of life will be on the floor side. You see, when you go with a club that's managed or struggle to qualify, when you see them play in any competition, you will be shocked. I believe that Nigeria will go their way to the World Cup. The sky is going to be our limit. Okay. We have the players. I say amen to that. I say amen to that. Well, we wish our Super Eagles all the best. For me, as a nation, I'm passionate and I really want them to be at the stage because it's not been nice for us to be out of the World Cup 2 times at a stretch. And they're doing their best from the administrators, the players, from the technical team. Everybody is hopeful that we get that. We'll definitely get there.
Okay, I put amen to that. So we'll come back to celebrate and catch up on that. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this particular segment on Global Morning. It's been actually very engaging. Thank you for sharing your insights on the challenges and the hopes of grassroots football and your thoughts on Nigeria's World Cup football. I like the fact that you're very sincere. And I like the adage you brought in. That's it. And I'm going to hold on to that, and hopefully we get to make our wins and find our way into the World Cup. All right. Okay, we look forward to having more of you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I'll tell you from Bogota.
Yes, I'm always around town. Honestly, I want to say a big thank you to you.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to air out my mind.
All right. Thank you. Well, that's it. We had Bryce Olatunde Akintade, who is a chairman of FC Like Mind Football Club there in Gwagwalada. He's spoken to us and he's wearing a lot of caps, like you mentioned, from the NLO division and also the North Central, representing the NLO 1 division. You had him speak so much and so passionate about football development, how far we can go and make the difference. Pick those talents from the grassroots to stardom and give them the needed attention they need to stand tall. Well, it's still Global Morning, and that is on this segment. Up next is Taste and Texture. Stay with us as we bring that your way.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Nigeria at 65, a nation rich in culture, heritage, and resilience. From the banks of the River Niger to the hills of Jos, from the bustling streets of Lagos to the peaceful plains of Sokoto, Nigeria stands tall, united by hope, straightened by diversity. 65 years, the green and white flag rises high, a symbol of freedom, a promise of self-determination, a call to greatness.
Through trials and triumphs, challenges and changes, Nigeria remains unbroken. Her people, bold, brilliant, and brave, continue to rise, innovating, creating, and shaping the future. The journey has been perfect, but it has been powerful.
As we mark 65 years of independence, we remember the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future with hope. Together, we are stronger and united. Happy Independence, Nigeria! This message is brought to you by Global Television.
Welcome back. It's good to have you. It's still Global Morning, and we've been having an amazing time here. I hope you've been having an amazing time with us. Well, let's quickly tell you that we would be looking at other things happening, because yes, we could bring you this and text us. I don't know if it's to cook for us. Don't mind us, but we have more food.
And I'm here hungry. I was expecting that food.
So then said we should not eat today. We're always eating our food.
We're going to carry over to next week. She give us 2 meals for this.
Yeah, she give us 2 meals, and we'll have that meal, and they'll be able to stretch up and tell you thank you so much. Well, that's it. We quickly want to tell you all the things we've had so far. We've had the municipal review segment, so we had stories making the round, and all the issues on the front burner, from the coronation to the issue of Nigeria 65
to the obviously oil sector, Dangote back in Peng.
I'm telling you, all of that going on municipal. We also had the miners who were unfortunately
incident.
Yes, all of that conversation. And don't forget that also in line with the 65th anniversary of Nigeria, the federal government also had activities lined up for the day.
Of course, we had the Jumat service yesterday.
Yes, we had a Jumat.
There's going to be a Sunday service tomorrow. And of course, there's an event marking
the World Conference as well.
World Conference.
So also mark all of those activities. All of that would be coming to you. We'll also give you all the information you'll be needing as a country, so you get informed and follow up with the activities lined up for that. Also forget that we had the conversation with our guest earlier on the affirmative action, the reserved seat for women.
Yes.
I'm actually very excited about the fact that the guest we had is on the global stage to talk about women across Africa and the world at large, and she's a Nigerian.
Certainly. So
despite the fact that we have less number of representation of women in Nigeria, we still know that at the global stage we have a woman from Nigeria, which they also putting out a lot of advocacy to change the narrative.
Of course, women in Nigeria have been making rounds in the international stage. We have Amina Mohammed, who's the deputy Sec Gen in the UN. We of course have Okonjo-Iweala, who's the World Trade Organization. So women have been really flying Nigeria's flag high across the world, and we need to see that replicated within our political system and even our civil service and all other sectors of Nigeria. You and I have always bantered that what men can do
better.
Later.
And I told you later, because like you mentioned, let's talk about it. She said women are doing very well. They have value addition across different fields, from the legal perspective to business, the home front, to the community level, and it is time for this to be replicated. The value addition to come into play in governance, in political seats, be it the legislation, be it at the state level. Everywhere women can still stand, or if given the opportunity.
Of course, and they would be given the opportunity. But I watched an interview that said they don't really give you.
We take it.
You have to take it.
But we have been in the front burner trying to ensure that they take it.
Of course.
We've gone across the states to ensure that there's no advocacy for women to understand what their role is. But I like the fact that she came with the part that it has to do with legal guidelines, framework to ensure that women understand their role and how that can play out for them.
When you talk about legal frameworks, that brings to mind the affirmative action and the 35% reservation of seats for women, and that has been making rounds. And if it's signed, of course, that would see and that would upscale women's representation across all spheres of Nigeria's political system, and much more than that.
Well, I'm a woman, and I'm so excited about all this going forward, because women need to have that seat and also have to have a good representation at the governance level, because we're doing well. Take it from me, Mukhtar. Don't drag it.
I never said you're not doing well. Women are doing well.
But give us the opportunity. Why?
We are giving you already.
Okay, thank you so much. I need to scream it out, because they always tell me what the man can do later. But I'm saying no. What is later? This is now.
You're saying it's better.
The hour has come, and
the time is now.
And we take it from now. So that's it. And Mukhtar, don't forget, we had, talking about sports, we had the match that played away from the grassroots, which our guest just finished talking about.
We're going to the continent of Europe, specifically in Spain, where Barcelona were able to defeat Real Oviedo 3-1. And that victory has taken them to second on the table, just behind Real Madrid, who have a perfect, they've not lost any match. They won 3 of all their matches, and that has put them at the top, while Barca is trading in second position. And of course, there are many more matches coming this weekend. But Barca, like is always playing catch up with Real Madrid, trying to make sure they're at the top of the table.
Yeah.
So how that's going to pan out this weekend?
Well, this weekend is a lot of football for you to watch out for and see where your club stands at the table, because that's what matters. Where fans clamor for the best. I just like to enjoy the football, but I don't like that stress of what club do you
know my club stands.
I know, Arsenal.
Well, where are you? You know now.
You know where we are.
You know where we are. We have to brag anyway. It's not about being proud. We have the result. Even though we don't won the league in a while, but this is our year.
Okay, congratulations.
Believe it.
It's still very fresh.
Well, the league is fresh.
It's all right. We'll find out the long run of all of this. Well, we'll bring you that highlights in the course of the programming. So sit back so you see how that panned out, the Barca match that played, the Barcelona match that played for you to have for you. But isn't that amazing run here on Global Morning?
Of course, it always is, and it's an amazing time always with you here.
And you, because I said look at an angle. Well, that's it. That's as much we can take today on the program of Global Morning Weekend. Thank you for being a part of the program. We look forward to being on your screen and also for you to also be a part of it every time we come on set. Until the next time, I am Anita Patrick.
And I am Mukhtar Kassim.